Today we're going to be talking about some of the common mistakes that adults make when reading books to children. If you're interested in that, then definitely keep watching. What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Destiny and I'm a licensed speech language pathologist, which is also known as an SLP. On the day-to-day, I am a full-time clinician and I work with kids. And one of the common things that I encounter in working with caregivers is that they are missing many opportunities when they're reading to their children. I said mistakes, and I want to be clear here. Any time that you choose to read to a child is a good thing. So I applaud any adult who is pulling out a book time after time with any child. With that being said, there are many opportunities that I, as a speech therapist, realized many adults aren't aware of. Let's get right into it. The first thing that I notice with many people is that they're picking books based off of how they look or the interesting appeal versus what is age appropriate for their children. And what I mean is you have two different books here, for example, okay? And they're both kind of interesting. This one just has a bear on the front, whereas this one has lots of stuff going on. It's lift the flap. It could be very interesting. But the thing is, this one may be the more appropriate book. If your child is, let's say, 3 or under, there are a couple of things that are impacting their ability to, one, attend to a book and then also understand that book. We have to be aware of what they're cognitively able to do. So a 3-year-old or any child under 3 really has an attention span of about 3 minutes or less. 3 minutes is kind of pushing it. So you want to pick books that really aren't going to take a long time. You also want to be mindful of the language in the books. And I recognize that they can't read, but you still want to be mindful of what's on each page. This book is Brown Bear by Carle. It's a very famous book, and he has very simple language on each page, just a few words or a few sentences per page. That's about how much a preschooler is going to be able to handle. Also, there's not a lot going on each page. They're just like a single animal on each page, and that is also going to be something that you want to pay attention to when picking books for a younger child. Now, if you have an older child who can kind of handle more, that's where a book like this will come into play. I'll show an up-close version, but it has a lot more on each page, a lot more words, a lot more going on, and that attention span is going to be lost very quickly for a younger kid, but for an older kid, you might be able to get them to hang in there longer. Another common missed opportunity is looking at different parts of the book. This is something called book mechanics. You want your child to be able to understand the different parts that make up a book, and that might include the front cover, the title of the book, the things that are on the spine of the book, the back of the book, the author, the illustrator. You want them to be able to understand what a page is, maybe point to some of the print on the page. One way that you can incorporate this into reading is just to do it every time before you start a book. So if you read a book at bedtime every night, go over the book mechanics. It doesn't really take that long, and after a while, they'll get used to it and they'll just start doing it themselves. Children love routines. They feed off of it, they need it, and they thrive on routines. Okay, common missed opportunity number 3. Do you find yourself just reading through the pages of the book while they're looking at you reading it? Well, that's a missed opportunity. You really want to make sure that you're interacting with them with the book. It really should be more of a conversation than it is a reading of the book. Kids are prone to interrupting. This is kind of like in their DNA, and you really can take advantage of some of those interruptions. I mean, within reason, of course. If they're interrupting after every single word, then obviously you want to get control of that. But if it's just every so often that they're adding kind of their own spin on something, or they're pointing out something in pictures, you really want to take the time to interact with them when you're reading that story. So if you're reading Brown Bear and then you get to the sheep page and your child goes, "Oh, sheep. Oh, the sheep that we saw at the farm the other day was white." Then you can say, "Yeah, that sheep was white. How many sheep did we see?" Because the thing is, as much as you are reading the story, you want to be building on their language with it. Keeping the sequence of the story is important, but if you're wanting to build more story comprehension, then talking to them about the things that they see is helping them to make connections from the book to the real world. This is going to play out later as they switch from learning to read to reading to learn. When you build that foundation of reading something in one book and making a connection to another book, or making a connection to something in life, that child is going to have a much better grasp on overall comprehension. Just in general, if the child isn't interrupting or making connections, you also want to make sure that you are stopping every page or maybe every other page if it's a really short book. So if you're going through this book, after a couple pages, you can say, what animals have we seen so far? What color were those animals? And you can just ask different questions to make sure that they're following along with the story. One of the other missed opportunities is not asking questions about the story once it's done. So once you've read through Brown Bear and you get to the end, you want to ask some questions about what you just read. This again is building on your child's comprehension skills. This can be really simple. You can start by just thinking of the basic WH questions. I drew a very basic drawing that you can use for understanding the story. Who was the story about? Where were they? What was the problem? What did they do to fix the problem? How did they feel when the problem was fixed? Asking these simple questions helps them to really understand what they just read and helps to solidify the story in their little brains. Okay, the last one. Do you find that children want to read the same book over and over and over again? Well, that's because, as I said before, they love routine. And once they find something that they love, they want to do it over and over and over again. I know it's easy for adults to just say, oh, we read that book already, let's do another book. Read the book again. In order to kind of keep your sanity when reading that book over and over again, you can change it up each time. If you find that you're reading through and they're saying all the words with you, then let them tell the story and you just flip through the pages for them. You could also challenge them to make up a story that happens after their story ends. So in Brown Bear, at the end, the kids go through all of the animals that they saw, including their teacher. Maybe you could ask your child, what did the kids do after they saw all the animals? And then have them come up with a sequence of things that they did after. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. As always, thanks for checking out my video. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comments. You guys know that I check them and I take them very seriously. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.